says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you lusting is the one you're loving?
So I do want to revisit the N-word, because that young man getting kicked off of Big Brother, I feel differently. Big Brother, these shows can be really toxic. You know, this is why I would never do a show where I'm trapped in a house and people can talk about me behind my back and I can't see it until later. And you know what I'm saying? Like, then you super big mad. Like all those housewife shows, people be talking greasy about people, and then you're going out on vacation with these folk, and then you don't see how badly they're talking about you till later, and then you got to come back the next season wanting to whoop their ass, and you can't. You know, like I hate those shows, right? But Big Brother historically has been toxic, and I'm so into Big Brother that I do watch the live feed. You know, like I'm watching them at 1:00 in the morning while they're talking and having their little chats. So this is what happens. What we see on TV is just cut, right? And then after hours, they actually keep the cameras rolling, and you can like, it's almost like be a voyeur. I guess you are a voyeur, because you're watching people eat, and they're, you know, seeing the different people couple up, and that's where the real drama happens. So when the seasons, when they had all this racism, it was off camera, but on camera. So this guy was talking with two other guys, and he said, you know, the N word, you know, but he was saying it like brother, the way we claim we say it. And it was a black man there, and he was like, you good, you good. No, we can't give people permission to do it, young man. No, he's not good. And then the people who, you know, some people who heard it at home told CBS, fire him immediately, and they did. But I feel like it's not unfair, but the way he said it was so, like, he says it all the time. Like, this is part of his vernacular, but he wasn't calling anybody an N-word. So it wasn't even with the vitriol or the nastiness or the venom. We're going to have a reckoning. And I'm going to need the folding chair to make an appearance with the N-word. I'm going to need the folding chair, the mollywop, the N-word, because we have given people the notion that this is something that can be just commonly said because you hear it on the radio. I mean, they don't bleep it out even on SiriusXM, which bothers the hell out of me.
Are we talking about this now or after the break?
We could talk about it now before we go to break, but you know, I'm just curious what you think about it since we're in the flow, because we, you know.
I'm gonna be real honest with you, Karen. I am not making this up. This is not me being hyperbolic. When I started doing your show, and I don't know the first time I came on and started doing it, you, specifically you, have changed the way I go about the N-word. I kid you not. Like, we were on one day and you were like, yeah, I don't think anybody should say it. And I kind of giggled. I was like, ha ha. And you were like, no, I'm serious. I don't think anybody should say it. And then I watched you when I was on the show with you, hang up on somebody who said, hey, I'm a first-time caller and I love your show. And I just want to say, I agree with you on not saying that. And she said the word instead of saying the N-word, and you hung up on her. And I remember being like, damn, Karen is not playing. Like, she's serious about it. And because the weight that you give to how you feel about it, that like kind of checked me, almost like when you have, you know, your mama or somebody, and I don't mean that with you saying that, comparing. I'm just saying, like, because you're not that way. I don't see that way. But like, if you were to have a grandmama or somebody say, stop. And when they say it, the weight of how they say it feels different. You know what I mean? So now, real talk, it's rare that I say the N-word. And when I do, I'm very aware. Because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, like, what is the context? And I'm gonna keep it 100. The hardest part for me to stop saying it is with like my boys, my black boys that are tight. That's the hardest scenario. But even in those circumstances, I find myself being like, do we really need to, like, you know, do we need to? But around my boys are like, N-word, yes, we need to. And then that's in the conversation.
Right.
You know what
I mean, but we have so made it like familiar. And I, you know, I'm not preaching. I mean, I share with you, I play cards with my parents every Sunday. The word was that, you know, like we called each other that. And it is very familiar. It's almost like kind of our inside, you know, term of endearment. But that white boy just now lost his might even lose his career, right? Yep. From something that, you know, we so flippantly put out there that we give people permission. And so if we don't want people to disrespect us, and I don't think he was even trying to be disrespectful. But now he's gone. because there should be zero tolerance. And so we gotta set the table because we're the world's grandparents. So you can't expect your children to do something that you're doing, and those of you who are parents, you know what I'm talking about, because they'll be like, well, you did it, but you have to set the example. So I feel like, especially publicly, what you do behind closed doors, I mean, hell, every civil rights leader of the 50s and 60s used the word as a term of endearment and behind closed doors, and even some in the 80s and 90s. I've heard it with my own ears, but it's in-house, and we all have an understanding. As soon as it goes outside of the house, which we've done with our music, and we've made it okay, because other groups won't let you call them out their name. There's going to be a bleep when Michael Jackson says, kick me, and then he says the next phrase, that gets bleeped. When they say stack chips like Hebrews on the Benjamins, that gets bleeped. There's no tolerance.
You know what, Karen, you know what I just thought about? That is so right. Because I'm going to tell you, I remember watching some TV show probably about 4 years ago, and someone made a joke about the R word. And at the time, I didn't know what the R word was. But as soon as I realized what they were talking about when they said the R word, I was like, okay, I guess I just don't say that word no more. And then it was just done. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a scenario or a situation where I'm like, I guess I need to just bring this up any other time, and I'll be real honest with you, and forgive me for not knowing. I don't know what the history is all associated with the H word that is honking. I don't know all the history, but I don't call any white people that H word. Like, it doesn't even occur to me.
I mean, Georgia, we could say honky. Honky doesn't. There's no single word in our lexicon that has the weight of the N word. Period. First of all,
I agree with you. That's
George Jefferson was calling everybody honky. And there's not a white person out there who's like, oh my God, you offended my ancestors with nobody's mad about that.
But this is what I'm saying, though. There are words with less weight that people don't cognitively go, I probably shouldn't use that word, and have just turned it off. Versus the N word, you have people going, well, if they say it on a rap song, if you were ever saying to yourself, well, if they say it, then it's probably a word you need to probably sit your ass down.
But you got, Killer Mike and all these folk giving permission. I mean, and at some point,
I feel a whole way about
it. It makes no sense, right? That's we probably could do a whole show on folk like that, but I don't even want to give them the oxygen. But as I'm looking at, the mixed messages and the hypocrisy, right? Because that's really the problem with America is the hypocrisy. Things don't line up. So then you can't tell the next generation, here's what you better not do, when there's no rules for anybody, right? Yeah. Previously. So we can't set things right until we set things right with ourselves, is my point. That's the hill I'm going to stand on. Until we get it right with ourselves, we can't go around and tell people what they can and cannot do. Now, what you're not going to do is put your hands on me. But beyond that, the language and all that, let us first get it right with each other. And if we have an agreement that when we use the word, or if we use the word, let's take it out of the music. You're going to have to bleep it. Where's that? You're going to have to bleep this. But because we don't control the power of how music gets disseminated, we don't get to do the bleeps.
Yeah.
So we're having these battles that we have no power to do anything about. Or how about we protest? Every time you hear the N word on a particular, I don't want to hear this. I pay a subscription.
Yeah.
Which I do, by the way. I have 2 subscriptions to SiriusXM. I pay a subscription. I don't want to hear the N word when I'm driving in the car with my kids. On a channel that's not rap. Because the song I need you to bleep it out the way you bleep out the K word and the way you bleep out the other references that are negative and derogatory towards other groups. So next time you talk to Reverend Al, can you ask him to do that? 866-801-8255 says you on his show. I guess I could call him. Maybe I'll do that. I'm going to call him after the show.
I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you love's thing